We're welcoming Ann Braden today to Village Square Booksellers in Bellows Falls. And her mother-in-law, Betsy's here, and other friends. And Ann is the founder of Gun Sense Vermont, which is a grassroots group focusing on championing common ground issues of guns in Vermont. So I hope that she's going to explain a little bit about that and talk to us about her new book, The Benefits of Being an Octopus. And she's got her octopus dress on, so we're all ready to go.
Great.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I love this bookstore, so I'm thrilled. So I guess I will start off just by talking a little bit about my background and how I got to here. And then I thought I'd read the first chapter of the book, and then we can do questions. Does that sound good? So I was a middle school social studies teacher before my kids were born. And when my son was a baby, he nursed for like hours and hours, and I would be stuck on the couch. And I just finally had time to read, and which I had not, like for pleasure, which I had not been able to do for a long time. And so I read a lot, and I read more, and I read more. And then at one point I was reading Louise Erdrich's Blue Jay Dance, which is, it's a memoir, and she's talking about, she has her newborn, and she's going through the woods with her newborn to her writing studio. And I was like, oh, that sounds so lovely. But I was like, but I know that like writing is like one of those things I know I can't do. But I was still on the couch for 3 more hours after that thought. And so in those 3 hours, I was like, well, but if I was going to write something, what would I write? And I was like, well, I guess I would, and I just, it's, when you have the time and you're just sort of stuck in one place, it's amazing how far your mind can get down a direction. And so I convinced my husband that I should get a little netbook. And I typed my first manuscript one-handed while nursing my son, and it was really bad and really short. But it taught me that I could actually write an entire story, and that I really loved it. So then I researched, well, what does it take to actually get published? And I was like, well, on average, about 7 years. And so I was like, okay, well, I've got 7 years before my kids, I didn't have a second kid yet, but I plan to, before that second child will be in kindergarten. And so it took 8 years, but now she's entered kindergarten this fall, and I'm very mediocre in my timing of getting published, right in the middle average. So this is my 6th manuscript that I wrote. I got an agent on my 3rd, and then we submitted those the 4th, 3rd, the 4th, the 5th. And when the 4th and the 5th were out on submission to editors, I really thought one of those was going to get picked up because they were like sort of really shiny concepts and big stories. And I thought, okay, well, I'll have an editor by the time I'm done with this next one, so like it won't be so hard to get published. And I was like, I'm just going to write something that's really honest and not worry about the story so much. And so that's how I started. Like that's how I approached this book. Was like, I'm not trying to get this sold. I'm just trying to be real. And of course, it's the one that actually got, seen by an editor, and it was like, we need to publish this. And so, it was a good lesson. But one of the things that happened along the way, hi Doug, was I started doing a lot of community organizing, and I organized around guns first, and really trying to hold up the middle ground in the issue of the gun debate, where you have some people that are anti-gun, you have some people that are, you should have no laws around guns, just like make sure you're supporting the Second Amendment. But there's all these people that sort of feel like, well, I feel like we should have some laws that keep guns out of the wrong hands and make sure that we're preserving hunting and gun owning for law-abiding citizens. And so the organization was really focused on holding up and highlighting all that common ground. But it did prompt difficult discussions, and I found out that I was a lot stronger than I thought. And so my writing changed after, those experiences, and I got braver in my writing, and I got just more willing to say things that I thought were true. And so those two things all sort of wove together. So this is a story about Zoe, who's she's 12, and she's dealing with a lot of the realities of poverty. Lives in southern Vermont, and she is forced to find her voice in order to make sure that to protect her family the way she wants to protect her family. And so, yeah, I think I'll read the first chapter, unless anyone has questions before I start.
I'm sorry I got here a little bit late. Were you talking about the Love Brigade just
Oh, right, and then I also started the Love
now?
Brigade.
What were you talking about then?
Gun sense.
Gun sense.
Oh.
Yeah. So and the Love Brigade, that was even more fun community organizing. You know, to really talk about that idea of connecting people in the face of hate and, you know, hard things, that like if we're bonding together, we are stronger. And that also certainly factors into this as well.
What is the Love Brigade, Anne?
Oh, the local Love Brigade is, it's, what we did is, there's sort of a list of addresses of people who have experienced hate or discrimination, or like just recently there was swastikas spray painted on a temple for Rosh Hashanah. And so we sent love postcards to them. Just like, originally it was just like, you know, postcard that's filled with hearts that goes in the mail. But then people add amazing supportive comments and just handwritten, handmade, and it's something where it's been really an incredible activity for people to come together around, because it's so, you're finding your voice and realizing that even when things are really hard, it's possible to make a difference.
And it's just sending out a postcard, which is easy to
Right.
do.
Yes.
It doesn't have to
anybody
be a
can do
big,
it.
anybody.
Or the sidewalks. Was that the same group that wrote over the message on the sidewalk?
It was a
with
different group.
Chalk?
Different group, but yes, same idea, definitely.
And then you thought about running for state government.
Yes, but this is a lot more fun, I must say. It's interesting because I feel like it's trying to make change in the same ways that I would want to make change, but it involves me getting to jump around in front of students at school visits, and I love that. So, yeah, at the moment this feels like this is who I am in a very deep way, where I feel like everything I've done has led up to this.
Right.
To this. So I will. Yes, I will read now. And it's for my mom. That's the first page. All right, it starts.
She raised you as a single mom.
Yes, she
so
did.
they can have that
Yes.
in their mind.
Yes, she did. And she
You're
did it.
familiar with single moms.
Yes, and she taught me that strength does not always show up on the outside. Like, you know, you can be very strong on the inside, regardless of what people think about you. So it starts with a quote. The history of the octopus illustrates the brain's ability to evolve. As they lost their ancestors' protective shells, they were forced to become more intelligent.
Like people.
Yes. I settle onto the couch with a chocolate pudding I saved from Friday's school lunch. This silence is amazing. Well, it's not complete silence. Hector is spinning the whirring dragon on his baby seat while he eats Cheerios. But it's pretty close. I savor a spoonful of pudding. How long do I have before Bryce and Aurora burst out of our bedroom arguing about something? When I left them in there, Aurora was pretending to be Bryce's cat and he was pretending to feed her milk, but that can't last. I mean, they're 4 and 3. That's not how it works. I take another bite with my eye on the bedroom door, but it stays closed. This never happens. I glance down at my backpack. My debate prep packet is inside and I'm actually tempted to work on it. I'm not a kid who does homework, and I definitely don't do big projects which usually require glitter and markers and poster board and all sorts of things. None of which I have. Plus, last year in 6th grade when I actually turned in a poster project, Kaylee Vine announced to the whole class, "Everyone, alert the authorities, Zoe Albro turned in a project. The world must be ending." Then she made that sound like a fire drill and did it every time she passed me in the hall for the whole next week. But this project doesn't need any glitter. And everyone else won't have fancy poster board with foam letters that make my flimsy piece of newsprint that the teacher gave me look like gray toilet paper. All I need is to know something. And I do. And maybe, just maybe, if I do this, and if I can rock it, all the other kids will have their minds blown, and it'll be completely satisfying to watch. Who would have guessed, they'll say, that Zoe knew so much cool stuff? I had no idea. I thought I knew who she was, but clearly I didn't at all. Maybe Kaylee Vine would even stop holding her nose and switching seats on the bus to get away from me. I take out the debate prep packet and lean over the coffee table. Which animal is best? Support your selection with as many details as possible, including what it takes to survive in a variety of situations. Miss Rochambeau, the social studies teacher, says this debate will help us understand the debates that led up to the Civil War, and Mr. Peck, the science teacher, says it'll be a good assessment of all the work we've been doing about animals. And the thing is, I already know which animal is best. The octopus. When Bryce was a tantruming toddler and Aurora was a baby, we moved 4 times over the course of that year. But the one constant was this little TV-DVD combo that we toted around with us and an old DVD from the library free shelf, The Mysterious and Fascinating World of the Octopus. That DVD would send Bryce into an instant trance, and we watched it so often that I memorized every word of it. Then, last year, when I couldn't go on the 6th grade field trip to the aquarium in Boston, my mom kept forgetting to send in the payment. Mrs. Giddings, the guidance counselor, brought me back a book on octopuses. And actually, octopuses is correct. You don't have to say octopi if you don't want to. The book told me so. I find a pencil nub at the bottom of my backpack and start filling in the blanks with awesome things, like their ability to instantly camouflage themselves, which they're amazing at because they have these things called chromatophores. That word was in my book. So this color of their skin can change to match what's around them. They even have muscles that change their skin's texture. Of course, it means that when they get mad or nervous, they turn red and pimply, but nothing's perfect, right? Miss Rochambeau will be as surprised as anyone else when I stand up for the debate and use a word like chromatophore. I settle deeper into the couch. If this were a regular Sunday, or really any day, Frank would be here watching TV, usually Angry News Guys. Frank is Lenny's dad, and Lenny is the owner of this trailer. Lenny is also my mom's boyfriend, and that's why we get to live here with his nice curtains and end tables that are perfectly aligned with this couch. Lenny even has an alphabetized DVD collection. He also has a recliner that Frank sits in like he's glued to it. But today, Frank went out for a walk to check the tree damage from a recent ice storm, and since Lenny and my mom are both at work, Hector and I get the main room of the trailer to ourselves. So even though Miss Rochambeau announced that we needed our completed packet to be part of the debate, this time I can actually do it. This time I don't have to be counted out. I'm 3 pages into the 4-page packet when Hector starts throwing Cheerios all over Lenny's nice carpet. I get down on the floor so I can pick them up. Those are for eating, not for throwing, I tell him, but he keeps throwing them anyway. I remove his ammunition, so naturally he starts screaming. Then, since Hector's scream seems to work like the bat signal, Bryce and Aurora burst out of our bedroom door, trampling all the Cheerios in their path. Bryce is yelling about his imaginary bucket of doom. Aurora climbs into my lap and covers her ears. If I were an octopus, things would be so much easier. I'd have 1 arm to wipe Aurora's nose, 2 more for holding both kids' hands when I pick them up from the Head Start bus stop to keep Bryce from wandering into the street after some rock he spotted, 1 to hold Hector in his diaper bag in the afternoons when my mom works at the pizza pit, 1 to adjust my shirt because it doesn't really fit and it can get too revealing if I'm not paying attention and I don't want to be that girl, 1 so I could do my homework at least some of the time if I wanted, 1 to pick up the Cheerios that are always on the floor, and the last one to swipe a can of Easy Cheese from the Cumberland Farms convenience store. Because little snowmen out of Easy Cheese are the most magical thing little kids have ever seen. And Easy Cheese letters on a saltine is totally different than having to eat regular saltines. Aurora knew the letter A before she turned 2, thanks to Easy Cheese letters. The main door opens, and I hear Lenny stamping the snow off his boots in the hallway. I drop my debate packet into the backpack and get the rest of the Cheerios dust scraped into my hand as fast as I can. "How's my baby?" Lenny booms as he comes around the corner into the main room. He pats Hector on the head and then heads to the fridge to get a soda. Lenny is Hector's dad. He's not Bryce and Aurora's dad. That was Nate. Nate used to take me hunting, which was cool. No meat tastes as good as the stuff you've caught yourself. But Nate's not around anymore. And my own dad was gone long before I could throw Cheerios. My mom doesn't seem to think he's worth talking about too much, but you never know. Maybe he liked documentaries as much as I do. It's all okay, though, because I like football too, and so does Lenny. Plus, tonight is a playoff game, and when my mom gets home from her shift, she's going to make her bacon-wrapped hot dog bites. Those are what got us Lenny in the first place. Maybe they'll make up for all the other stuff. That evening, my job is to keep Bryce and Aurora in our bedroom so they don't grab the bacon-wrapped hot dog bites before they're cooked. With Hector balanced on my hip, I position myself as a human shield near the door while simultaneously keeping my eye on Lenny's nice lamp, ready to leap for it if necessary. Hector sucks hard on his pacifier as he watches Bryce and Aurora launch their plastic battle bots into the blanket volcano. But then, Bryce picks up Aurora's precious stuffed sea turtle, Petunia, as the next sacrifice, and Aurora starts shrieking at the top of her lungs to stop him. That's one benefit of living in a town like this. When the rich people donate their old stuffed animals, you can end up with an awesome sea turtle that even has a fact printed on the tag about the dangers of shrimp nets. And anyway, we're not as poor as we used to be. We're living in Lenny's trailer now. I mean, it's a really nice lamp. I hear the clang of the spoon against the bowl as my mom mixes the barbecue sauce, the second to last step before the bites go in the oven. That means just a few more minutes before we can leave this room and I can settle onto the couch like a boss to watch the game. Unfortunately, I'm not the only one who can hear that spoon against the bowl. Both Bryce and Aurora have suddenly forgotten all about the volcano. "Bacon, bacon, whap!" Aurora shrieks. Bryce makes a break for the door. Instantly, I'm in full-on barricade mode. You're not eating one until they're cooked, just like everyone else. I don't need to remind them what happened the last time my mom made these. The barbecue sauce stain on Lenny's wallpaper doesn't let anyone forget. Bryce is trying to push me out of the way using every bit of his scrawny 4-year-old arms, but I am immovable. Plus, Hector is helping to weigh me down. "No fair, Zoe," Aurora wails. "What if they're all gone?" "There'll be one for each of you when they're ready." Aurora puts on her sour eyes face. "I don't believe you." "Trust me. Both of you will get a bacon-wrapped hot dog bite." I pry Bryce's hands off my sweatshirt, but he keeps pushing on me with his head like a silent, slow-motion ram. "I promise." Bryce stops his ramming and looks up. "Pinky promise?" I nod and hook my pinky around his. Pinky promise. It's only when I hear the oven door closing shut and the beeps of my mom setting the timer on the stove that I release them. "Remember," I whisper, pulling them close before they can zoom by me. "No yelling, no running, no messes." Magically, they settle right down on the far side of the living area and start playing quietly with their toy cars. The promise of a bacon-wrapped hot dog bite is a powerful thing. Frank is back in his recliner. The pregame show is on, but even though we've lived with him and Lenny for a whole year and a half, I don't know if he even likes football. I don't know if he actually likes anything. He's like a beetle, propped belly up, especially if that beetle is the kind that spends most of his time with either a cigarette stuck in its mouth or a strand of cinnamon-flavored floss hanging from its teeth. One is healthier than the other, but both are gross. I sidle up to my mom in the kitchen area, but she doesn't thank me for my heroic feat of keeping the kids out from underfoot. She just takes Hector for me. He needs a bath, she says. I hear Lenny in the entryway coming in from outside. He went out to check on his car an hour ago, and I bet he ended up talking to everyone in the trailer park. Everyone knows Lenny, and everyone loves Lenny. He strides across the living area into the kitchen, the frigid January air still clinging to him. "How's my pair of cuties?" he says to my mom and Hector. His voice is loud enough for him to still be talking to the neighbors. He takes Hector from her and bends down with him so they can peer into the oven window. "And look what's in there! You see how she wrapped up each hot dog bite real tight, Hector? That'll make sure each bite begins and ends with bacon. And they're sure to come out nice and crispy because your mommy knows how to take them out the exact right time to add the extra barbecue sauce." My mom stops drying her hands to give a little laugh and a curtsy. Maybe making these will remind Lenny why he got together with her in the first place. She used to tell great jokes, too, ones that would have Lenny doubled over laughing at her impressions, but it's been a long time since she told one. Once the coin toss starts the game, Lenny gives Hector back to my mom and settles onto the couch with his soda. He never drinks beer. And the giant tub of cheese puffs he gets from Walmart just for football games. I sit down next to him, and he hands me the cheese puffs without a word. I like that. I've just understood that I get to hold them. My mom disappears with Hector into the bathroom for his bath, but that's okay. Patriots games are my time with Lenny anyway. Not only do I get to hold the cheese puffs, but if there's some football rule I don't get, like knowing where the defender's hands can't be when a receiver is trying to catch the ball, then Lenny explains it. Both of us are always on the edge of the couch for every third down, me eating those cheese puffs and him drinking his soda. Basically, it's the best time ever. By the time the game gets underway, Bryce and Aurora have shifted to right in front of the TV, but they're still only paying attention for commercials when it's more fun. Mostly, they're zooming the toy cars around, pretending they're trying to outrace the Death Star. They haven't seen the movie yet, so they don't exactly get it. Come on, defense, Lenny mutters. You got this. Let's get a sack right here, I say, leaning forward. Lenny nods and takes a swig of soda without taking his eyes off the screen. That's right. Push him out of field goal range. Listen to Zoe. We watch as the Colts hike the ball and our defensive linemen close in on the quarterback. The pocket's closing around him and then, ooh, even better, it's a fumble. Yes, Lenny yells, pumping his fist in the air as the refs unpack the pile of players and signal the Patriots now have possession. Lenny and I high-five, and then I lick the orange cheese stuff off my fingers in celebration. This is how things are supposed to be. I've got a nice couch to sit on, which, thanks to Lenny, is perfectly centered in the room, cheese puffs to eat, and a great game to watch. At halftime, when no one's looking, I reach into my backpack for my debate packet and slip it in my front hoodie pocket. I'll finish it after the game. But when I look up, I realize that when I wasn't paying attention, Bryce and Aurora got so excited about a commercial that they started hurling toy cars at the TV. Before I can stop them, Frank erupts from the depths of his recliner. Throw one more stupid car at my TV and I'll pound you into the ground. He keeps shouting, and it's like watching an ancient wrinkled mountain explode, revealing an interior that's straight up burning swear-filled lava. Bryce and Aurora scream and run into our bedroom, tripping over each other as they go. They slam the door shut, and I hate myself, because in the far back corner of my mind, a horrible part of me is glad I can watch the rest of the game in peace. That's when the power goes out. Of course it does. Next to me, Lenny stands up and immediately trips over the coffee table. My mom bursts in from the bathroom using her phone as a flashlight and carrying a soaking wet Hector on her hip. Lenny calls over to her. You got any guesses why we're in the dark? But she doesn't say anything. She just heads for the oven and takes out the bacon-wrapped hot dog bites. I'm sorry. Hopefully they'll still be crispy. She props the phone/flashlight under her chin, hefts Hector higher on her hip, and transfers the hot dog bites onto her plate with a spatula. They smell amazing. Like the pig is roasting on a spit right in the living room, dripping delicious grease all over the carpet. Lenny makes his way into the kitchen as my mom pours the rest of the barbecue sauce over top of them. He pops one in his mouth and then shakes his head. I've had better. I'm sorry, my mom stammers, and I'm sorry you can't watch the rest of the game. Lenny takes the plate of hot dog bites and shrugs. I'll watch it at Sliders. And with that, Lenny and the plate are out the door, and I'm left sitting on the couch. No Lenny, no game, no bacon-wrapped hot dog bites. And I'd promised. That's the end of chapter 1.
So where does that come from? I mean, did you just make that up, or
Well,
was it?
I feel like Zoe is a real person, I must say.
All the football stuff, all that, I mean, that's all
She
sort of...
watches the country. She's in New England.
I mean, I think that, well, that's what writing is. I mean, it's many layers of, I did rewrite the beginning I rewrite the beginning more than anything else in the manuscript. So I think this is rewrite number 6, maybe? But,
How so?
well, I think you have to tell yourself, the first draft is like telling yourself what the story is, and then you're trying to figure out how to tell the story. And so knowing where to start the story is always a really big decision, and knowing, because, you know, sometimes it was earlier than this point where I had it, sometimes it was later than this point. I went back and forth. And so I feel like the story itself never really changes. It's just figuring out more details about the story, or like sometimes things change a little bit, but I feel like it's the story exists, and how can you best tell it?
Or to pull people in and foreshadow different things that when they get there they'll say, oh, right, this
Right.
makes sense because
Right. And once you know
can
how
relate everything.
things are what's gonna be important later,
Mm.
you got to go back and make sure that works.
Is it based on anyone in particular?
No, but I mean, I certainly had students. As a teacher, I had students who were like this. I had, and then when I was getting ready to write this, well, this book in particular came from one conversation. I was another mom I know whose kid's the same age as mine. She used to be a counselor at Academy School in Brattleboro, which, all the schools in Brattleboro, we have, 80-70% free and reduced lunch. And she's like, she knew I was a writer, and so we were talking about books and kids' books, and she's like, these kids, they never get to see themselves. They never get to see themselves in books. There's never rural poverty portrayed. Or like if it is, there's a couple, but like there's there needs to be more. She's like, you're a writer, you should write that book. And at the time I was in between manuscripts, and I usually don't have the next idea right away. It takes some time. And so I was like, well, that's a really interesting idea. And so I started just reading a ton of first-person accounts of kids in rural poverty, adults in rural poverty. I don't do research where it's like, here are all the statistics. I just want the human experience, and read as many as I can, so that you have this sort of just full expanse of, here are so many different possibilities of kinds of people and reactions to things and situations, and then with all that in your head, just Zoe kind of she existed, and I don't think of her as my character. I think of her as this person that I'm just helping her get her voice out. So yeah.
Is that similar to your other books, where you feel like you know there's a person out there?
No, it's different. Other times, or other manuscripts, I think, yeah, I think that's what's different. Like, she existed, and then the story came from her. And other times it was story first, and then who's the right character for that? And I think that's probably why this did better. Because it's a more authentic. I think it's like, well, this is what her situation is, and what happens next.
So where did the easy cheese come from?
Oh gosh, easy cheese. I mean,
I've never heard of easy cheese.
I have 4 extra cans from the launch party. If you,
I know it is.
I mean, it's cheap and easy, and it makes everything exciting.
Maybe I did have it as a kid, but that was 100 years ago.
Well, it still exists in the Cumberland Farms and Hannafords.
So is this based on personal experience? Or
I mean,
with your own kids? I mean,
they don't actually like easy cheese that much. No, no.
You really wanted to, because you couldn't do it with your kids. You really wanted
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I feel like it's important to have easy foods.
Research.
Yeah, I did easy cheese a lot as part of the research for the book, to make sure that you could really make letters, and then I ate a lot of it.
learned her alphabet by the time she was 4.
Yes, right, right.
Was there any time in the writing process during those first 5 manuscripts where you were tempted just to say, this maybe not for me?
Yes, right before this got published, honestly.
So what pushed you through to was the story was just so good you felt you had to get it out there? Is that what kept you going? Or?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because each time I have hope that, okay, those other ones didn't work, but this one's better, right? So I always had hope that, okay, this is the one. And they always say, you usually have to rate at least 3. And you're like, no. My second is I'm going to break that, break that curve. And, but so I wrote this really believing that those other ones were going to sell. I was like, okay, this is just keep writing, because you had to keep writing when you're going on this, submitting things out to other people, there's always so much rejection that to sustain, you need to have something that you have control over, creating something new that can have hope attached to it as you're getting no for hundreds and hundreds of times. And so so I wrote this, I sent it to my agent. Actually, this one I was like, I don't know if this is enough of a story. I just went honest. I know it's real, but I I don't, like other times I was like, I love this, here, it's ready. You know, this time it's like, tell me what you think. And so it takes her a while to, you know, read things. And so 6 months later I got, or maybe 5 months later, she's like, I think, you know, I think it's close. I think you just need to rewrite the beginning. And so I worked on rewriting it because that was something I could, but I had basically stopped writing after I sent this because I kind of, I think it was maybe the 2016 presidential election. And I was focused on other things. And so then I rewrote the beginning, sent it back to her, but I could not come up with the mental space to write something new. And actually I did have I guess I had written, I had another thing drafted, but I was hating it, and I was like, this is just, I just couldn't make myself go to it. And so I took a break, and I was like, you know, like I had just given up hope, like anything was ever going to get published at that point. And I was just like, I'm just gonna, like, I can do other things, right? I have other skills. This isn't gonna work. I'll stop writing. And it was like maybe 2 months. I got so grumpy. I was so grumpy, and I was like, I needed it just for myself, to start the day. And so I was like, okay, I don't care how bad this manuscript is. I'm just gonna keep working on this bad manuscript. And then it was like 2 weeks after that I got an email from my editor, from my agent. That was like, it had like love in the subject line. I was driving, and like the text popped up. I was like, oh, I should not be reading my text when I'm driving. But yeah, so it was a good lesson that I needed it regardless. But I have since scrapped that other manuscript. What I'm looking at now is completely different because I think it wasn't really a bad manuscript.
Well, this one could have a sequel.
Yes, yeah, it could.
I read the part of the first last night. I was watching your kids, and first, and then I read the end of it. So I don't know what's in the middle, but I know the mother disappears, you know, somewhere. Yeah. And Zoe kind of is, you know, comes of age and does all that. But my thought of what I read in the beginning, beyond that a little bit, and the last 6 or 8 pages, is that anybody can relate to that. And it's so much easier to relate to Zoe rather than somebody with the glitter and all the, you know, the stuff, because this is basic. And you're just dealing with the basic things that 12-year-olds, whether you're male or female, deal with. And you can be very well off and go skiing and do this and that, instead of being very poor. But the difficulties are the same whether you're an only child or have many siblings too. She herself has strength and does not give up, and is reflecting what we all feel we need right now in this country. We've all been individualized so much in developing everybody's full potential. We don't know anymore what it is to be together. And she is pulling everything towards herself, and Silas speaks, who doesn't. He's the male person, and then Matt, you know, gives them acceptance at the end, and the naughty girl is I haven't read the whole middle.
I know, but we read the end though.
And she carries on. So I, of course, want to know where she carries on. I was 12 years old and 13, and life was really hard, and, you know, we had food on the table, but I had 2 younger ones and a really obnoxious older sister. Everybody has something, right? You remember when you were 13? You were either too tall, too short, not athletic enough. Your father grouched at you. Pick something, you know, something. Everybody has something that you know is horrible.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think, that's the...
So next year she'll be 13, so you can see what life is like for her at 13. She'll still be in middle school.
Yeah, well, I
would like to know where she's going or what she's doing.
Yes, there's 2 pieces.
I didn't mention debate. how she gets there.
So one piece is that I feel like I think Zoe is very relatable, because it's like you're in, no matter what you look like on the outside, on the inside everyone feels completely vulnerable and human and in need of connection and support. And
success. She was
Right.
feeling something needed to happen positively, and she so wanted to help her
something.
mother.
Yeah. Right.
You know, she's the kind of a girl, she's the oldest, so she's going to raise everybody else. But if she was the second born, she might go back and try to relive her mother's life for her, because she loves her mother so much. She wants to make her life be okay. You know, the boy who's the third oldest, he's going to grow up into the man. Well, I mean, this book can go on forever. She did a great job. And then there's Aurora, you know, a little
Yes.
flitty girl. And then there's the new baby. So they're all over the place.
Yes. Well, you know what's complicated?
Pick one. You can be any of them.
Yes. The thing that's complicated is that my publisher is
Yeah.
very hard to work with. And if I did another book that has the same characters, I have to work with.
Could he stop with you?
Oh.
He could stop you.
You'd have to what?
I'd have to work with the same publisher.
But they've
It's the
discontinued the youth books.
Right, you'd think you could negotiate, be like, but you have no more children's editors.
Right.
So yes, we'll see. But it's a little complicated because
Business gets in the way.
yes, business might get in the way.
Well,
but
just change your name or something.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
what
think-
was the last name? Albroch? Should be somebody else.
But what I'm working on now is it's similar in that it's about bringing people together. It's Love Brigade inspired, and it's 3 different people from very different places, and it's about crossing the political divide and dealing with gender issues and all the emotional baggage that comes on all sides of that. And so I feel like it's a similar exploration into.
So you say that, I immediately think, oh God, I hope it doesn't get all schmaltzy and
Schmaltzy.
gooey,
No,
sentimental.
it will not get schmaltzy.
No,
and gooey.
schmaltzy.
No.
Because
No.
this has an edge, of course.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think I can write things without an edge, it turns out.
Yeah.
So it's good to know.
I'd like to hear about the debate theme.
Well, so Zoe has a social studies teacher who at the beginning is, like, where's your homework? Come on. That was the expectation. And
Tough,
yeah,
actually.
yeah. And then something happens that sort of exposes exactly how vulnerable Zoe is outside of school. She sees her outside of school, and there's a switch, and she recognizes herself as a child. The teacher recognizes herself. And so the relationship shifts, and she starts to, she's like, I'm pulling you out of homework club, and I'm putting you in debate. Because I needed to learn how to take myself seriously at that age, and this is what you do too. Like, you need to respect yourself first, so that others will respect you. So it's total tough love, and I actually had a really hard time writing it.
Doing that.
Right, exactly. There was one line that, oh my gosh, I agonized over. It's a turning point in their relationship, and I kept trying to be like, no, she doesn't really say that. She doesn't really say that. But no, she really does say that. It was, and so she sort of brings Zoe into this debate world, and Zoe's surrounded by these kids. Like, this is a town where most of the kids are, it's based on southern Vermont. It could be in Brattleboro if Brattleboro had a lot less poverty. Like, she is isolated in her poverty. And so she's surrounded by all these kids that are overachievers and, gonna make their point, and she just she does her octopus thing of she's like, I can blend in, I've got my camouflage. So at first that means her goal is to not throw up on the papers. Like, I'm just not gonna throw up, everyone will be fine. But she has to keep going. And so then she starts to, it's just sort of this gradual shift of, well, maybe I'm gonna blend in by being just like them. And I will highlight things just like they do. And so, but through the process, she starts to listen to them, and the topic of guns comes up. and she knows what Frank thinks, and she knows what they're saying, and she's like, I don't think either of you are right. So she sees this middle ground, and so then it's a matter of whether or not she has the courage to actually speak up.
Do you see yourself in any of the characters?
It's funny because I think you all like yourself. You are always in every character in some way. Although my kids are also those kids.
Did they give you permission?
No. But I mean, it's just like you can channel, like you're sort of channeling, like sibling dynamics, you know, more than anything else, just like the relationship. But yeah, I think I can see myself in every single character, in a different way. And like Matt Hubbard, like he's like the popular kid at school. He's like, she rides on the bus. She like gets the bus out of the trailer park. He gets picked up right in front of his house. Like she watches his mom like saying goodbye to him at the door, giving him like a smoothie to drink because he didn't have time for breakfast because he was up late working on his social studies essay, you know. And she's like, as if like any of those things would happen. And so Matt is this, like he's a nice kid, you know. He's doing like what he thinks is the right thing to do. He's like plays
Lives
trumpet.
in a house.
He lives in a house, right? He's like, the teachers love him. He's kind and considerate and completely oblivious to the life that Zoe has. Completely oblivious. And so, and that was who I was too when I was little. So I grew up in a suburb in Connecticut where I was conscious of, like, other people had a lot more money than I had in my suburb, but I was fine, economically speaking. And then when I was either 11 or 12, I read Cynthia Voight's Homecoming, which is a book, like, there was not that many middle grade books at the time, so I feel like it was one of the only ones. But it was about a family where the kids had been abandoned by their mom. I don't know where their dad was, and they had to make their way from like a grocery store parking lot in upstate, like in the northern part of Connecticut, down like basically along the highway to where their aunt lived on their own. And I just felt like my world blew open reading that book. I was like, oh my gosh, that could be happening right now. And you know, it's fiction, but it's a fine line, you know. And so suddenly this whole idea of, well, I don't have as much money as they do, is like, well, whatever. Like that is nothing compared to the range of experience. So he comes to reconcile with the same kind of moment that I had, just with a different vehicle.
I just thought of a question. When did the idea of the octopus come in? Was it later?
It was
or?
early, actually.
Early.
I was in the very early stages of thinking, is this a book? I don't know. And I was still, I read a lot in between manuscripts, like just random books, and I'd wanted to read Cy Montgomery's The Soul of an Octopus, and so I was like, well, I'm going to read that, and maybe, and I was like 5 pages in, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so obvious. Like, why has no one written this book yet?
This is called serendipity.
Yeah, it was well timed. I mean, I knew, like, Zoe, I was like, I kind of want her to be, like, what's her, how do I, get in, and so I was like, what a good idea. And just that quote at the beginning, just that how you, like, as soon as I realized that, it was a no-brainer, because I just feel like we all have these completely different obstacles that we are trying to navigate towards, and we're all aiming for intelligence and success, and but there's so many different paths to get there. And just because someone has lost their home or has lost their security does not mean they're weak. It means they're incredibly strong and having to draw on superpowers that a lot of people don't have to draw on.
Why did you choose this story? Was it because the person told you that you had to write this story about rural poverty?
Yes.
Why did you choose to take up that challenge?
Well, because I had taught those kids, and I knew that you don't see it. You know, and I feel like it's so important for kids to see themselves. Like, it's about respect. And yes, it's like, this deals with hard issues, but kids are dealing with hard issues. So we need to show them basic respect of like, yes, like that is a hard issue and we are listening and seeing you.
But you're taking a huge, holistic, entirely more encompassing approach to the educational system by bringing out these other materials to help bring about other messages, experiences.
So what is education? That's what it always comes.
Yeah, learning environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is it the schools are supposed to do and what is it community does? I think the overwhelming thing is that it's the relations that have the value and the power and the everything. The money just seems to keep a lot of kids busy up here or let you ignore other things, the same way a severe disability might put you in a different world or whatever. But fundamentally for humans, it's the humanness and the interaction.
Yeah.
And our commercial society that we have pulls us away and puts us connected to
boxes.
things
Mhm.
instead
Yeah.
of to people.
Yeah, and I think her strength comes from the fact that she loves her family so much.
Mhm.
You know, and that's what drives her
And
forward.
takes responsibility for them and wants them to have a better life rather than have a better toy.
Right?
I really can't wait for my great niece to finish reading. My sister has more grandkids than I can imagine. But they're at the age, I mean, they're ranging from like 2 to 9. And they're all, at least a couple of them are really great readers at age 9 and 7 and 6. So anyway, Amelia, I think, is going to be the first one to read this. So I'm sort of waiting on my sister to make the decision. Is this right for Amelia?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's right for anybody over age 12. My daughter, who's 36, will relate to this, as you know, because you're her sister, perfectly for
Yes.
different reasons, but
Right.
absolutely. And my sister, who's 71, will love this book, and her daughter, who's 46.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
say
know
it's
about the
10
men
and
in
up.
the world, but it's pretty much
All-encompassing.
universal. I remember this.
Yeah.
You know. You have a larger audience than just middle school, I think.
Yeah.